Good and lovely morning, folks. It's been a bit of a crazy week, so for this week's video, I wanted to tell the story of the adventures of a tiny white cat. But before I do, a bit of background. You may or may not have heard me refer to Boss Man. Boss Man is a quadriplegic man that I work for part-time as a caregiver. He has no movement below his shoulders, so he requires help. A couple of days a week, I do his morning routines, including exercises, meds, and dressing. I also do his night routine a few nights a week, which basically is a backwards and shortened version of his morning routine. Boss Man is a super kind and nice guy, and I'm fortunate to get to work for him. Boss Man uses a tracheostomy tube to breathe. A tracheostomy is a hole that goes through his neck and into his windpipe. A tube is placed in there and then can be hooked up to oxygen or a ventilator. Boss Man is considered ventilator dependent, but he only uses it at night and as needed during the day right now. The rest of the time he's just connected to oxygen and he breathes on his own. Part of his tracheostomy setup includes a valve that allows him to speak. There's a little port that connects his oxygen tubing to this valve, and when he's not hooked up to oxygen, that port is supposed to be covered with a tiny white rubber cap that looks an awful lot like a Tic Tac. This cap doesn't get used by Boss Man very often, as he's connected to oxygen pretty much all of the time. So begins our adventure. So last Monday night I was at Boss Man's doing his usual night routine, and part of that routine includes removing his tracheostomy tube and cleaning it and replacing it. And after I clean and replace his tube, I use a suction device to go down there and collect excess mucus. I know, it's glamorous, but the man can't cough it up on his own. Anyway, after cleaning and replacing his tracheostomy tube, I put his oxygen back on like usual because it takes me a few moments to prepare the suction. Nothing was out of the ordinary until I went to use the suction. I looked and there was a tiny white cap right in the opening of his tracheostomy tube, and I have no idea how it got there, but there it was, just hanging out. I don't know what I looked like on the outside in that moment, but on the inside I was freaking out. So in a moment of what may have been not so brilliance, I thought I might have been able to just grab onto it with the suction catheter and get it out. And I did, I had it, but the suction just wasn't strong enough to pull it out. Boss Man, we have a tiny problem. There was a white cap in your tracheostomy and now I can't find it. I'm worried you may have inhaled it. What? So we called his wife into the room and we all kind of talked about it and ultimately decided that surely he couldn't have inhaled it. Boss Man and his wife didn't seem to be too concerned, so I went about our night as usual. On Tuesday, Boss Man texted me and asked if I'd be available to drive on Wednesday for him to see his pulmonologist and get an x-ray. Of course I'll drive. I love an adventure. So on Wednesday, off we go, and I'm internally freaking out the whole time, but trying to play it cool on the outside. Boss Man was in good spirits and seemed to be breathing better that day, so that's good. And the x-ray was kind of cool. Positioning Boss Man was also kind of fun, and I think I surprised the tech when I told her I'd put on some lead and help. So for his lateral picture, which would be down his side, I held it up his arms to get them out of the way. That was cool. After we took the x-rays, we went over to the pulmonology clinic to talk to the doctor. They reviewed the x-rays, and much to our relief, they told us that they could not find the cap on x-ray. The doctor offered to schedule a bronchoscopy where they'd stick a camera down his tracheostomy and look for problems that way. But by this time, Boss Man was satisfied with hearing that nothing was found on x-ray, and his breathing was better that day, so we went back home. I wish that were the happy ending of our story. Alas, it was not. Thursday night when I went to see Boss Man, he wasn't breathing well, and there was a small amount of blood coming up when I did his suctioning. And I was really, really worried for him because if it wasn't this cap, then what was going on? On Friday, I got a message from Boss Man's wife. Friday evening, I think. It included a picture. She said that he hadn't been breathing well and had elected to go in for the bronchoscopy, and they found the cap. I was so relieved to know they had found it and that they had gotten it out. On Saturday, Boss Man was all smiles and breathing much better, and so was I, knowing he was going to be okay. And so that concludes our story of the tiny white cap that spent 4 days in Boss Man's trachea. The moral of the story is, of course, be cautious, friends.